Good morning, crafters. Today we are going to break out the STARCRAFT Solo machine and make some junk journal ephemera. Today I'm going to be using this wonderful cardstock from Hobby Lobby, and this is just the thin kind. It's not the heavyweight or extra heavyweight. And this is from the Paper Studio, and I really like this cardstock because it cuts really well in a cutter. Sometimes you'll use other craft papers and they just tear up. That's because they're not meant to be cut. These are designed for cutting crafts, so in a machine, so they work really well. I'll also be using my Cricut mat. I know I'm using a STARCRAFT Solo machine, but my mat has totally disintegrated, so I'll be using a Cricut mat, but use whatever you have on hand. Another cardstock that works really well for what we're going to be doing is the watercolor cardstock that you would get like in a great big pack, like a binder type deal. And anyway, so if you have that, you can cut it down to 8.5 by 11 size so that it fits into your printer. And without further ado, let's get into the software program.
Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to use the shadow layer effect in STARCRAFT Solo. This comes in really handy for making stickers and all sorts of things that you might want to do for not just making stickers, but if you're like me and you're into junk journaling, you want to have your own stuff and you want to be able to size it how you want. So if you don't have a cutter and you want to do this exercise, I will make another video on that. But for now, this video is how to use PNGs in your STARCRAFT Solo for your junk journal journey or whatever else you want to do. As I said, you can use this method to make stickers as well. So let's just jump right in. Now we're going to head over to our STARCRAFT Solo app here and open that up. And no. Okay, so when you open up your project or your program, it's going to look like this. I have some projects in here already. But anyway, we're not going to click on those. We're going to click on New Project. And then you'll see here in the New Project box that you can name your project in here. You can also name it once you're inside the program. You don't have to worry about naming it right now. And I hardly ever name anything anyways, unless I'm going to keep it because I'm going to be reproducing it. But since I don't do, mail outs or anything like that anymore, I don't really save any projects. And plus it takes up extra space and makes it harder for your app to open the more stuff you have in there. All right, so then you have your mat size. I'm going to be using 8.5 by 11, but if you click on the drop down box, you can see that you have options for what you can do. And if you have a specific size, then you can adjust that right here in the width and height boxes. I like horizontal landscape most of the time, just because that's easiest for me to work with. If you're doing other projects, you're going to want it to be horizontal, otherwise they won't work out. But for what we're doing, you can choose either one. I have mine on inches. You can click the drop down box and do millimeters or centimeters. Click on OK. And this automatically usually comes up whenever you open up your program once it's been closed down. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our graphics. Now, if you don't have graphics, then you can get some in the link below, or you can go to Creative Fabrica and choose tons of PNGs to do this project with. Also, and I'm not sponsored by Creative Fabrica, I just use their products, and that's one of the ways that I actually got into doing this. It was because a lot of the things that I was ordering were PNGs, and I didn't really know what to do with them. And PNGs you can't print out because they're usually super large. I mean, you can print them out, but they're going to be generally large. So you'll want to put them into a program where you can scale them up or down in size. All right, so I'm going to go into where I have my images. And here's all my images that you can see. And I'm actually going to make this box smaller. And I'm just going to bring over, because these are large files, I'm only going to bring over 4 images at a time. You can bring over however many images you want. And in order to do this, if you've never done this, you're just going to click on one of the images that you want, push your control button down, and then grab the other images and click and drag over to your screen, and these will pop up momentarily. Okay, so we can see that all of our images are loaded here that we chose, and we have one here that's highlighted. This is how it's always going to be when you drag in a bunch of images, pages, whatever. Excuse me. So what you're going to do is click on your shift key and click on the other images just like that. Come up to where it says object, click on object transform. Whoops, let me go actually click on this so it stays, and then scale. And then over here in the scale box, you'll see you have a choice. You got dimensions, and then you can drop down to percentage. I always click percentage. And I just want, these are large files. These are 3,000 by 3,000 pixels a piece. So I want them to be pretty small to fit on my page here. So I'm just going to, once you highlight that, I'm going to type in 10 point and then click on enter, hit enter, click on apply, and then you can see that our images are now something that we can like manage and grab. And I'm going to click on OK. Now, while they're all highlighted over here, you can see they're all highlighted. We're just going to drag them up like they're one image. And then you have your little double arrow here. Hit your shift key and then drag your cursor in. Don't push your items so far out of the screen that you can't see them, because you can't bring them back. You'll just have to re-upload them. And then click on that and bring it back down and scale it down just a little more, holding in your shift key. And now we can see that our images are separate because they're all gray now. Now we can just move one. Okay. And we can probably get about 2 more images on here in the middle, like, and then maybe like a couple of small ones. So let's upload 2 more. Okay, so now we can see that our new images are on top. These 4 down here, these are the images that we already have on our work page right here. So we have our image that's highlighted, and then we brought in one more. So remember, click your shift key and then highlight the second image. Come over to object, transform, scale. We're going to go 0.05 because these are big. Push enter, click on apply, and then okay. And this is like super small. Okay. So you don't have to click on 0.5. I just did that because even though we did 10% last time, they were still really, really large. So either way, you can figure out how you want to do that. So now we have both items highlighted, and we're just going to click off of those, and then now we can separate them and change their size. Remember, holding the shift key whenever you're sizing up or down. Now, on my JPEG pack of this, I have the flowers separated. I don't have the flowers separated in here, meaning I have the rows separated from the leaves. And that's another tutorial too. That's really fun to do, and you can do really cool things when you separate these items. But anyway, for another day. So we have our 6 images, okay? And this one I kind of want bigger, so I'm actually going to move these around a little bit like that, because this fits better down here and it fits better up here. You can figure out wherever you're going to place your items, okay? And then the next thing we want to do is we want to click on preview. Now you can see in here, this is where you're going to, these are all the lines that are going to cut is what I'm trying to say here. So you see like that little dot right there? We don't want that. That's going to cut. And of course we need a border around that. And then we've got like this little dot right here in the macaroon. And this happens when you make PNGs. It doesn't matter who you are or how good you are at making PNGs. There's always going to be some small little indiscrepancies sometimes in like a little, like where you think there wouldn't be. But that's an easy fix with StarCraft in the method that we're going to use today. So we have our 6 images, we can see the cut lines, and basically everything needs a shadow layer. So what we'll do is we're going to do this one by one. I recommend starting with the one that's closest to the edge of the page on the ruler side over here. So I have my ring box, I'm going to click on that. And even though it's the first image on my page, it's the bottom image. So just so you know where things are and how this system works. All right, so we're going to come up to Effects, and we're going to click on Shadow Layer Contour Cut. I like to move my box out of the way, even though I can still see the image. Now, you see how it's gray around that. We don't want that. And we want our shadow rounded. So you click on Type, hit Shadow Rounded, and that's kind of big. I don't want that big of a shadow on my item. But first, before I downsize it, I'm going to come over here and click on Blackout. This way, I know for sure that every little piece that I don't want to cut is not going to cut. And then I'm going to come over here to where the size is and put my cursor right in between the 5 and the 0 and trade out the 5 for a 1. Hit enter, and that way you can immediately see the result without clicking OK, because you might not like the result. It might be too thin or too thick still. So I do like that one. It has that little bump up there still, and I'm just going to make my shadow layer a little bit bigger. Hit enter. And I probably could erase that, but we're not going to go over that in this tutorial. So I don't like that color though. What I'm going to do is come over here to the color wheel, or the color box, color picker. And this is kind of like a brownish gray. So I'm going to actually come down here into the orange, and you can kind of see, like right over here, you can see if you like that. And what I like to do is drag the cursor over, the box over, to see if if it's gonna be a close match, and then we'll click on OK. I like that. It's not dark and it's not too light. So we're gonna click on OK. And so now over here in the right hand side of the page, we have our shadow layer. Our main image is still highlighted, as you can see here in blue. So what you want to do is come up to the styles panel. So each one of these has a name. This is text, as you can see right here. This is style. We're going to go over that, what's in there, in just a second. This is fill and stroke. We won't be covering this today. And then we have position and size, which we don't really need to worry about right now. And then over here, this is where you can adjust your mat size, like if you forgot to do it in the beginning, or you actually changed papers sizes that you were going to do your project on. And then here you can show print margins, registration marks. You can show the grid. I have my grid lines on, as you can see. If I unclick check this box, they disappeared. But I like the grid box because it helps keep everything lined up. So that's up to you on how you want to do that. So now back to our image here. We're going to come over to the style, okay? And while our image is highlighted, we don't want our image to cut. We only want our image to print, but we want the shadow layer to cut. So what we're going to do is click on Print and Cut, Print Only. So this image is not going to cut, it's only going to print. Our shadow layer is what's going to cut. Shadow layer always is on, I'm just going to show you this one time. Not that I won't show it to you again, but I don't normally do this way. So what we're going to do is click on shadow layer, and you can see that when you click on shadow layer, it's already on the cut mode. You don't have to go in here and change this. On the image, you do. Number 2, okay? Once you have your image highlighted and you have it on cut line type, print and cut, print only, then you're going to hit your shift key, click your shadow layer, hit Control G on your keyboard, and now it's one group. So now let's take a look at the preview. Now we see we only have one layer cutting here. We don't have two, just one, and that's going to be our shadow layer. So let's make one of those again for everything, but we're going to do it for this mushroom next. Come up to Effects, Shadow Layer Contour Cut. Now this is kind of, skinny. Like there's a lot of little skinny parts in here, and I don't want all of those little like holes in there. So what I'm going to do is click blackout. Those holes are automatically going to fill up. Click on rounded. We always want to do rounded unless you're doing something jagged and you want it to look like that. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to make my layer a little fatter for this one because it's got a lot of, intricate cuts, and I want it to cut nice. And so I'm going to do 6. Just push enter. And that's a little bit fatter. I like it. So we don't want that color though. We're just going to choose a color on the color wheel. And I'm going to show you guys how to save a color if I can do that right. Sometimes how did I do that last time? And I want this to be a little more brown. Okay, that looks like it's going to be a good match. So I'm going to click on OK. And wow, that looks really, really nice. So what we're going to do is click on the color, and then we're going to go add to custom colors. That way, when we come back and we want to highlight our other items, we already have that color. We don't have to try and match that color again. So click on OK, and then OK again. And then once again, we have our shadow layer here. So the shadow layer is always going to pop up below your image. So as before, our image is highlighted, you can see, and we need to change it to print only, print and cut, print only. Our shadow layer is already going to be on cut mode. So we're going to hit the shift key, click on your shadow layer. On your keyboard, hit Control G, and now it's a group. So now we can see we have 2 images that are going to cut or print and 2 shadow layers that are going to cut, okay? And this one, the macaroon, let's see, do we really need anything in there? I'm not going to do that little tiny dot. I'm not going to make a shadow layer for this one. That little dot is so small, it's not going to matter. Now, if you're doing this for yourself or you're making, something and for someone else, you may want to put a small shadow layer on that or put a dot behind it so that it doesn't show through, but it also doesn't cut. And that's something that we're going to do on a different day. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add a shadow layer to the rest of my items here. All right, so now all of our items are ready to cut. Let's just check one more time just to make sure. Okay, so everything's ready to cut. And with StarCraft, you're going to want to make sure that your images are in the bounds of the cutter. Oh gosh, what are these? The registration marks. Okay, so these are the print and cut registration marks. I had to look over here and like, what do we even call these? So anyway, you can see that mine are all in, and that's going to be okay. I could move it up I might just for Pete's sake, but it's probably going to be okay. And what will happen is if it's not okay, when you go into create, it'll tell you if your item is not in the right area. Okay. So let me just move that up just a little bit. And everything looks good. I'm just going to move this over a little. So I can move that over a little bit. Okay. Next, we're going to go up to create. And everything is in here, we're going to leave the same. This is just like standard, like what your machine is preset with. Okay. Then come over to print and cut, print. And I already have mine hooked up. If you have a new machine, you will have to hook it up to your printer. Come into properties, and now I have mine, because I'm using cardstock, I have mine on greeting card setting, which means, and then I have the inkjet greeting card. That's the media type that I have chosen. The print quality is high. I like high print quality because I want my saturation to be as much as possible. And I'm going to be using the 8.5 by 11. This is going to print out on portrait. Even though I have it in landscape in StarCraft Solo, it's going to print out how I want it to. I already have it on where it's going to be coming from. My paper source is the rear tray. It knows it because that's how I do it all the time. And click on OK, and then OK one more time. And our item is going to print out. So let's see how that looks.
Okay, so really quick, this is the watercolor cardstock that I use. It's the Watercolor Artist Studio Pad, and I get these at Walmart. They come in 50 sheets, and this is super amazing in the cutter, and it works really, really good for a lot of the other things that we're going to be doing in some junk journal projects. All right, so first things first, we have to turn on our machine. And I have mine set up with that, but you can do whatever color you want in the settings. We're not going to go over that today either. But what we will do is take a look at our graphics. Let me turn this light off so we can see a little bit better. So there's our graphics all printed out. Now, when you are loading your StarCraft Solo, let me adjust my camera here. This is how you're going to want to load your item. So if it's like, we're looking at it like this, and you have it on this mode, which is horizontal, then you're going to just set it on your mat, like that. And on StarCraft, the point of origin is going to be over here in the bottom right-hand corner. We're just going to smooth that on, and I'm actually going to tape this. And the only reason I'm taping this is because my mat is really not that sticky, and I don't want these to cut improperly. And sometimes even if your mat isn't sticky, you can still use it, but you just have to, I mean, it's sticky enough, like there's just barely any tack, but sometimes, you know, you can just put like some tape on the edges like I'm doing, and take your brayer and it will be fine. Okay, so the one thing that I want to show you is to zoom in here, is the, hold on. Okay, so we have our speed and force, and for this paper, this is kind of thin cardstock I'm using, so I don't need quite as much force. I have it on 82, and I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. And I have my speed on 8, which that's going to be okay for this paper. You'll know, though, that some papers do not react well to speed and certain forces. So that is something that you're going to have to figure out when you get into your program and start making stuff. But in the meantime, it's hard to do this with just myself, but we're going to get it done. Okay, so now the next step is to just load our machine. I'm going to move that back a little bit. and you want to line it up. There's a line on your StarCraft, and that's just where you line your mat up, just like that. You want to make sure that all of your wheels, these are on the mat. They don't have to be lined up, but they do need to be touching the mat. Okay, so I'll bring my camera over so you can see. So you see I've got these two over here. And the reason that I have it like this is because I generally print on 8.5 by 11. And so I don't want a wheel. And if I'm doing stickers, I don't want a wheel to roll through my design. So if I had it in the middle here, which is where it comes when you first get your machine, you know, you will notice sometimes that the ink will smudge because this wheel is in the way. And so I just moved that. We're not going to get into that today, but adjusting these is really, really simple. So, and then you see I have my other roller on this side of the mat. So as long as you're on the mat, you're good to go. And so the next step is to push scan and then cut.
Okay, so what we're going to do next is push scan, and then we're going to watch that on the other camera, and then we'll watch it cut. So it's going to scan and then cut.
Before your machine cuts, you're going to have to get it to the right origin. So like as I mentioned earlier, that is in this corner, the right hand bottom corner. And so you're just going to move your your head right here over, and you want your red blade, the thing that's holding your blade, you want it to be right in between right here where my fingernail is. That's the point of origin. So that's where your machine is going to read in order to click, so that when you click on scan, it starts from over there. All right, so I'm actually going to click on scan and move this back a little bit. And then we're going to watch this cut. Now, every once in a while, you see how it's stopped right now. So what you have to do is take your stylus pen or your finger, and there's a little red cross here. You're going to move that up with your, just like that, like I did, and then click on OK. And you'll see here that there's a little like corner. If you didn't mark it when you moved it up the first time, take your stylus and move it right into that corner right there. Click on OK, and it'll continue to scan. These are going to cut out fairly quickly because I have them on a higher speed, but also there's not a lot of images, so these should be done cutting in just a moment. All right, and then now let's take a look at these, see how awesome they look once we pull them off the mat. All right, so let's see here. Where am I? I'm going to turn my camera this way. It's easier. Okay, so we now have our images. Okay. And now we're just going to take these off of our mat, and hopefully these cut really well. I'm pretty sure they did. Almost tore my image there. Gosh. Okay. Awesome. And the one thing that I totally just love about StarCraft Solo is the precision in the cuts. Unless your machine needs calibrating or it didn't read the registration marks properly, it's going to give you an accurate cut that is just absolutely amazing. So let's take a look at these up close. I really like that one. It's so cute. All of these really, these are really nice. All right, so these are the final products. And I really love these. These are going to be so fun to put into my junk journal. And I'm not going to go into any decorating today. I just wanted to show you guys how to use the shadow layer contour cut to get what you want in StarCraft Solo, you know, for your stickers. And this is just one way to do this. There are other ways to do what we did today. Of course, the process is a little bit different. And you know, everything's, you know, got its little nuances when you do something that is like this in a program where there's, you know, different options for you to kind of do the same thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will try to be more informative in the next one. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And in the meantime, I will be chit-chatting with you guys really, really soon. All right, have a great day and happy crafting.